Good evening and welcome to one and all on a 1 week celebration of our Honorable Vice Chancellor Sir Professor Prabhat Ranjan Sir's 60th birthday. Today I, Shivani Pachori, on behalf of D.Y. Patil International University, Akudi, Pune, would like to take this journey further. Today is the fourth day of our journey, and so far we have got to know a lot about our Honorable Vice Chancellor Sir, be it from his childhood to his studies. He's going to US and coming back to India in order to serve his nation. When we see his life's journey, we can find that his life has never been on a straight path. His inquisitive nature and willingness to know more and more has led him to various ups and downs. But few things always remain constant. His never say die attitude and his willingness to pursue his dreams no matter what. Moving ahead, apart from being a nuclear fusion scientist and a wonderful educator, today we'll explore yet another dimension of our Honorable VC Sir. Sir,
Thank you,
good
Shivani.
evening, sir.
Good evening.
Sir, as we came to know from yesterday's journey and from yesterday's session, that you were very clear from very starting that you have to follow your dream, that you have to become nuclear fusion scientist. Then what made you go to Dhirubhai Ambani Institute of Information and Communication Technology? Why did you move out of nuclear fusion research?
To be frank, I had no plans to move out of nuclear fusion research. In fact, one day on my table, I found that there was uh, two pamphlets were lying on my table, which was from Reliance Group. I don't know who kept it in my office, which said that there's a new university coming up. It was very close to my home where I used to stay, and they're looking for faculty members. And the salary being offered were very high compared to what was being paid at that time. But I did not bother to look at that. I just kept it aside. And then after several months had passed, I got a call from the director of the university at that time that he wants to meet me, Dr. Kurchatkar. He was used to be IT Bombay deputy director. And since the university and its temporary office at that time, university was still not operational, was close to my home, I went and met him. And he asked me that he would like me to join the university. I told him, no, I cannot join. I'm working on a very important national mission. So then he said that maybe you can join us as visiting faculty. So I said, okay, that's fine. On my way to office, I can come and give 1 hour's lecture in the morning, 8:30, and then go to office. So he said, it's fine. But the first semester of operation, it took some time for me to get official permission to actually become visiting faculty from my institute side. In fact, at that time, my director of Institute of Plasma Research, he lost his father, so he was away. So first semester, I could not be visiting faculty. Then it was January of 2002, where actually I started teaching a course as a visiting faculty. And somewhere down the line, I started to enjoy interacting with the students. And I did not think that I'm moving out, but I thought that I can do more work in addition to nuclear fusion research. And since the institutes were close by, I could continue to do nuclear fusion research and also do much more work using the students to amplify my capacity. So that's how actually I moved into this. And I also saw that Mukesh Ambani, who was handling the university at that time, was very keen on research focus. So funds were not a problem. And so all these things made me move. And finally, after one semester, I joined full-time sometime towards the end of June 2002. So that's how I moved. It was not to move out of nuclear fusion, but to actually do more work in addition to nuclear fusion.
It feels great, sir, that while pursuing you taught them, you made them also realize what they should dream of, what they should do for the nation, and what they can do, what potential do they have. So, would you kindly throw some light on what kind of research did you begin in the Dhirubhai Ambani Institute?
So my first task was to actually continue what I was doing earlier as nuclear fusion research. But then there was a limitation in terms of what kind of facilities were there available in the university. So one of the area that I felt was important was robotics. Nuclear fusion reactors, like many other reactors, need a lot of remote handling. So I thought that I could actually work on robotics. And this was discussed with Mukesh Ambani, and he gave a go ahead that yes, please go ahead on the robotics part. So as I was starting to look into robotics, I came across situations where I found that not one robot, but if I could combine large number of robots working together, that will be an interesting thing to do. So a group of robots working together on a task. So just like if you see, for example, there's a heavy load, it's not one person, but there are multiple people pushing it together in one go. So when I was going through group of robots, that means the communication among the robots is important. Some of you might have noticed that when a lot of laborers are pushing some heavy thing, they sing a song, Dam Laga Ke Hainsa. And that is actually to synchronize their force together. It is not to motivate themselves. It is so that everybody pushes at the same time. So that means the communication among them is important. If they're not talking to each other, they cannot do the task. Then while going through the research papers and so on, I came across an area of sensor network, which was same group of robots, except that mobility was not important. So it was a larger thing. So it's called sensor network. Now the same thing, names have changed. People use IoT and other things. So I came across this area of sensor network and I realized the importance of this. So I started to work on that. It took me some time to set up. Both the students were new. We were just in first year in the beginning. Second year students came in. But I was always focused on getting the students to work on projects. In 2002, towards the end of 2002, Reliance launched Reliance India Mobile at that time. And I got the students to work on projects related to mobile apps. They were in second year, but I think out of 70 apps that were launched in that mobile, 20 were done by my students. And so slowly we kept on increasing. In about around 2004, 2005, in about 3 to 4 years' time, I had developed courses for the students who had come to senior years, as well as the master's students and PhD students. And then we started to actually, around 2005, we started work on sensor network. And quickly we became, I think by 2007, 2008, we were known internationally. I applied this to actually three areas I would focus on. One is the disability sector. The second is wildlife tracking. And third one is moon mission, that we'll come to moon mission a little later. I would just, but my focus always was that we should help nation or society in doing this work. I was never focused on paper publication or trying to make money out of that. My focus was always to help nation or the society. So anything that was fitting into this role, we started to take it up. In fact, to be frank, first thing I tried was to working in agriculture. And Reliance at that time had a big agricultural farm, 2,000-acre farms in Jamnagar, where they have oil refinery. So I visited that, and they had a mango orchard of about 100,000 trees, and they were working on very large scale plans of setting up 50,000 acres, 100,000 acres mango orchard, which would have made them the largest mango producer in the world. So I got interested that I went there and actually we discussed almost 10 projects. We started to work on those. So started from agriculture. Then at some stage, 2005, the Reliance Group is split actually. And the two brothers, Mukesh Ambani and Anil Ambani, they separated out. And our university was shifted to Anil Ambani Group. So the agriculture product came to stand still because that was part of Mukesh Ambani Group. And we used to have a course called design thinking, design. It's called design project, not design thinking, design project. And we found that the design project, we had students to work on socially relevant problems. So socially relevant problems, that means that it need not be delivered. They have to just plan it out. They were in second year. Two girls, Ramya and Pallavi, actually they were from Hyderabad, and they actually wanted to work on something relevant. First, they wanted to work for persons with visual impairment, or as we used to usually call blind people. They went to Blind People Association in Ahmedabad, and they came back to me and talked about some of the issues. They went home for vacation, and we found that In the vacation time, they came across a news item which was related to a girl called Bhavna, who was in Chennai. Bhavna had cerebral palsy. She could not speak. She could not move. She could not move her fingers. Even in that condition, she had passed class 10th. So based on that, these two girls from Ramya and Palvi actually traveled to Hyderabad, so from Hyderabad to Chennai, actually met this girl and saw how she was functioning, how she was studying. And they came back and told me about her condition. So we said that, all right, let's see if we can develop technology to help her. And in that process, we started to develop something to help her operate television. The television, normally we operate through a remote control. Now, she did not have proper finger movement. So we actually started to first focus on her using her hand movements or so wrist movements. So if she moved her hands up, the TV channel will go up. Move it down, the TV channel will go up. Left and right would change the the volume. So this is how we actually started to work on disability sector, and slowly this work started to grow more and more, and that's how I got involved in disability sector. So if you want, I can go into more detail, or I can take it up a little later.
Sir, you must have helped many of the people. One of the person whom you have helped is with us today. We have Divya Bajpayee ma'am with us today. Uh, we have came to know that you helped her mother, and she is a professor in business school. Good evening, Divya Bajpayee ma'am.
Good
Welcome to the
evening,
show.
sir. Good evening, Shivani.
Good evening, Divya.
Good evening, Shivani. I met I met Professor Ranjan way back in 2012 or 13 when he had driven down to Baroda to meet one of the prominent rehabilitation specialists in Baroda. So I had gone to that specialist to find out, if there could be some, assistive devices that could be made for my mother who was suffering from limb girdle muscular dystrophy. And he told me to just hang around there and wait for an hour, since a professor was going to visit from Gandhinagar who seemed to have some prototypes, some new technology, and he was working with those with disability also, besides his own teaching and research work. So it was more out of curiosity that I stayed back, and it was a really good coincidence, and I waited and I met Professor Ranjan for the first time there, and he was kind enough to accompany me to my home, and my mother was alive then. She passed away finally. So Professor Ranjan came and he tested out, the automated wheelchair that he had made. So when he conversed with my mother, he realized that basically she would not need it, since it was more useful for those who could not talk at all. But I remember that it cheered us all up, so much to have him visit us at home, and to basically, care and to try to understand. And my mother described in great detail. Now, everybody doesn't have that kind of patience or time. But he listened to us for, almost an hour or so. And then I realized that actually I had known his older brother also, who was an IS officer in Bihar. So, and I had met him just 2-3 years ago at IIM Ahmedabad. So that made me, have more trust that here is a person, who is kind, who has compassion, and who is going to try to, help you out. And then eventually, when I did my PhD in public policy from IIM Calcutta, I stayed in touch with Professor Ranjan because he knew other people who were working in the disability sector. And I was very happy to know about his progress all the time. And finally, I was also in touch with him when he worked with TIFAC, because by then I had also moved to Delhi. So at TIFAC also I saw that this is a person who would step beyond his role. Often people can be quite selfish, and unless they are getting something in return out of it, they are not going to bother how it affects others. But he kept trying, and he always had so much energy. Sir, I must say I was surprised to know it is your 60th birthday, because you have the energy of a 50-year-old who is still running around and so humble all the time. trying to organize everything. So I attended a couple of workshops also that, he was kind enough to invite me to. I was there, when he inaugurated the technology vision uh, document also. So yeah, so and then when he ventured
Thank you. Thank
into
you.
how non-vegetarianism could be, maybe discouraged and all that. So I really admire how much, he has he's looking at the society and the earth or the universe as a whole, and how, various parts could come together so that we could all have a better life. So
Thank
thank
you.
you so
Thank you,
much for
Divya.
that.
There are
Yes,
other guests
thank you.
waiting. Thank you
Yes,
so much.
sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir, it was so wonderful. Thank you, Divya ma'am. It was so wonderful to hear from you. As ma'am shared with us how you have inspired her, her mother, and she even shared that your brother is an IAS. I think doing good for the society and for the nation is in your blood. That would be, moving forward. Sir, as we say that researchers get their worth not by the number of days you spend in doing them, but it depends on the lives, on the number of lives it is going to help, the advantages the number of lives are going to get out of it. So how, as you have shared that you have mainly researched in three fields: wildlife, disability, and moon mission. How did your research contributed to these various fields?
So I would like to share my screen so that I can show some images. So yeah, so actually, as I mentioned, that I got into the disability sector because of Ramya and Pallavi to help a girl, Bhavna from Chennai. So the first work we started was actually using the wrist movement to control television and other things. So you can see, for example, in this particular picture, Kajol, this girl in Paldi area of Ahmedabad, trying to control. And you can see the happiness on face. We were just testing it out at that time. And this girl is Parvati trying to do similar things. So she is in such a position that she cannot even keep her head straight. This boy Akshat in Patna actually trying. You can see that we just early stage we're trying to test it out. You can see hairband and so on being used. And then slowly it started to become more professional, where you can see it looks more like this. And then it started to become useful to users. But then we found that in this particular case, the user, just like when you use a remote, you have to actually point it out towards the device. Let's say you want to put on the air conditioner, you need to point it towards the device that, okay, I'm putting it on, AC is this side or something else is the other side. We found that many people actually could not move, people with disability could not turn around and so on. So we made another device, which is being shown in this picture, where actually it's split into two parts. I'm not going to technical details of this because it's short of time. So we made this, we got funding from National Trust, which is the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, as well as IBM, to support some of this activity. You can see this boy Parth in Paldi trying it out. You can see the happiness on his face. This boy Sumit and his brother Rohit, they could not even sit down, but they used to love to watch cricket. I think World Cup was going on. They're from Delhi actually, and they love to be able to control television by themselves. You can see this girl Neha. I don't know if you can notice the smile on her face. Actually, I met her when she was about 16, 17 years. She could not speak. She could not move by herself. She could not even move her fingers. She could not move her fingers. She could not even move her hands properly. So, for example, if she wanted to lift her hand, it will go in a jerk. She kept her hand, she will hit it hard. Her mother told me that at night, sometime when she moves her hand, actually she slaps her mother so hard that mother starts to cry. So she had no fine control over her movement of hands. Some things we take so much granted. So she was always dependent on somebody else. Once we gave her the device and she could operate things by herself, the first thing she did was to actually throw out everybody from whom she wanted to be independent. So our device actually changed her life, complete equality of life, because she became independent. And the smile that is on her face, actually, I always tell that science and technology can bring a smiles in faces of people. It is not simply for the publication and papers. So that's had been my philosophy. And we continued this work actually. For example, you can see Sarita Dwivedi. She is a famous painter. She lost both her hand in a childhood accident, both her hand and one leg. She has only one leg. She does excellent Madhubani painting, or Mithila painting as we call it. She is from UP actually. I got in touch with her. I'll not tell the story now, but she wanted to be able to operate a wheelchair. So we got a wheelchair made with help of a gentleman, Mr. Bhargav Sundaram, who has a wheelchair company in Chennai, so that Sarita can actually control this through her leg. So we moved the joystick into the leg, and she started to control. So this was in 2012. Since then, she's been using it, and she's been very happy. She's moved to Kanpur, and she's working in Kanpur right now. With all these things, we have a school in Patna where I saw this particular slogan. It says, count the ability, not the disability. Count the ability, not the disability, which says that look at the positive aspect of a person and not the negative aspect. Like when we see a person, we say, okay, this person does not have hand, this person cannot speak, and so on, or cannot walk. Let's look at what the person can do rather than what the person cannot do. So count the ability, not the disability, it was a slogan I noticed, and it was very important for me. So I said that let's look at the ability of the person, what the person can do. For example, hand movement, leg movement, head movement, voice, eye movement or eye blinks, facial expressions, conscious thought, muscle movement, and then we have other devices, touch screen, you being able to blow air and so on. And then we combine this with different technologies to make sure that we can capture the ability of the person. For example, using accelerometer, gyro sensors, voice recognition chips, using images, or BCI. BCI, if you can see, it's brain-computer interface. I'm going to talk a little bit more about this brain-computer interface. So the green dots that you see are the ones that we made for users, gave it to them. Yellow means we did in the lab, and white means we were still working on those. So we kept looking at the ability of the person, what person can do, use technology, and then make them do what they want to do. For example, they can operate light or fan or television or computer, or through speech synthesis, we can make them speak or operate wheelchair, or being able to open the door of a house or open the gate of a building, or put on a geyser or a water tap, or even being able to operate simple electrical machinery, which was important for persons to be employable. I will not go into details again because of the time. Later on, we also had these cheap smartphone devices, touchscreen devices, so we could actually make a communication device for people who were speech impaired. So if they could not speak, we could actually make these apps so that they could speak through these by touching icons and communicate their basic needs. Again, I'm not going to go into details of these, and we made various flexibility in the system so it could actually be used by many people. And then we started to give it to users. So, for example, this girl, Devanshi, she was in very difficult condition from Ahmedabad, dystonic cerebral palsy. In fact, she was the first child that we met. First time we met, she was 6 years old when we were trying our systems. And then after 3 years, her parents brought again, and then I realized it's the same child. And along with that, Mona Patel, her physiotherapist, also came. So we had actually gone to Mona Patel's clinic called Spurs in Ahmedabad to test out these devices. This girl came and we tried out things with her. And again, it's a very interesting story, but I don't have time to go into details. But we could get her to be able to communicate through this, and I could see the happiness on face. We also allowed her to be able to operate, put on light on and off. I could still remember that smile on her face. She was so happy to be able to control light by herself. And then we had many cases. I think if Jasmita has joined, we will like to call her after a couple of minutes. So this particular center she runs, High Five CDC. Hitans was also in dystonic cerebral palsy, so we actually tried to help him out. We work at Chasar Home in Mumbai. So let me stop here, and probably we can call Jasmeet into the studio if she's there in the backstage.
So today we got to know about the inspiration which has led you to this position. Girls like Bhavna, Sarita, who have inspired you. It was so great to know about the inspiration and the motivation you were getting from them, sir. As it is said, Every single time you help somebody stand up, you are helping humanity to rise. Sir, how did you use your research in the welfare of mankind?
So actually, the disability sector was an important one. Agriculture was another one. And as I said, that the agriculture was something that I could not continue as much, although I came back later on. Let me also go into the other part, which was very tough. If I could share the screen again, which I worked on brain-computer interface. So if I could request that my screen be shared again, I would like to show some details of what I did to brain-computer interface. And this work actually interestingly started because of a journalist who actually published a newspaper article sometime in 2010, where instead of using what I had done was gesture-based control, he actually wrote thought-based control. He wrote in Hindi, भावनाओं से चलने वाली उपकरण. So I said that I was a little unhappy with the journalist wrote something wrong, and people will ask me how I've done, and I've not done that. So then I thought that let me prove him right. So 2010, I started to think about how I can use brain and connect it to computer and make people work. And I came across a device which was not available at that time in India. Actually, it was available in Canada and US. In 2011, May, actually, I could purchase the device. And using that, actually, I tried. And I remember I had gone for vacation and then I came back here on June 1st. I worked on that. I worked in my home, actually. And you can see me along with two of my engineers, project engineers, and one student. We're trying it out in my office. If you can notice on my head, there is a neuro headset. And this neuro headset allowed me to capture the brain waves or EEG waves as they are called. And then it is connected to computer. And then we could control various things like light or other things. In fact, I put it on YouTube on 1st July 2011, where I showed how through blink of my eyes or through my smile, I can control light and so on. And then I thought that let me find. So I developed this actually to prove the journalist correct because he had made a wrong news. And I wanted to make sure that after about a year and a and a half, I could actually prove him right. So I did that, but I didn't have a user available to me who could be using this device. So I went around looking for that. Again, I will not go into that story. But finally, I came across a gentleman, Mr. Suresh Karat, through another journalist friend of mine, Rashmi Bansal, a very famous author, actually out of Mumbai. Hopefully, she would come and interact with my students. She had already come earlier, but that time we were just starting. So she told me about one of her colleagues or one classmates, Suresh, who was at IIM Ahmedabad with her, and both graduated in 93. Suresh, at the age of 32, when he was in 1999, he had a brainstem stroke. Due to the brainstem stroke, actually, he lost both his hand movement, leg movement, and voice. He could take input, he could hear and see, but he could not communicate by any means. He could only communicate through blink of his eyes. So that was the only way he could communicate. So we actually provided the device to him sometime on March 13th or 14th, 2012, to which actually changed his life. Because for the first time after 13 years, he started to be able to actually operate a computer by himself. I request that a video where he's typing by himself using this device be shown on the screen for the viewers, and then I can explain how it is being done. So can we have the video, please? So in this particular case, what we are doing is that we're actually capturing his head movement. We map the head movement to the mouse cursor of the computer. And so when he moves his head left and right, the mouse cursor moves on left, right on the computer. When he moves his head up and down, the mouse cursor moves up and down. So now we have the video. You can notice there's a laptop. We put a on-screen keyboard here. So basically, he's controlling the cursor movement through his head movement. And when he blinks his eyes, actually we make the mouse click, left mouse click. So it is as if he is controlling the mouse. So whichever character he wants to type, he can type using this. So using this, started to type, and then regularly for last 8 years, he's been using this system. We improved the system, as we went along with his experience. And he started type. He writes blogs regularly using this. So then next day we also demonstrated another capability where he could control a light by himself. So if I can have the next video, please, where he's controlling light for the viewers. Let's try to see that video. That's also very interesting. Yeah, so in this particular video, you can see that he's trying to control light bulb with the blink of his eyes. So light comes on, light goes off, again he blinks and the light comes on. You can see the smile on his face, which actually, if you towards the end of the video, he actually bursts like into laughter like a child. He was so happy to be able to do simple things that we take for granted. So we can stop the video now and move on to the screen share. So we developed this device, and if we can have the screen share back, I could show how he writes blogs using the device. Yeah, so we can see that actually this is a newspaper article which talks about how I enabled this person to use. Rashmi Bansal, who put us in touch, actually felt this was a miracle. In fact, she wrote a blog called "Do You Believe in Miracles?" But actually, it's the Suresh who wrote an article called "I Can Type" as part of his blog, where he says that he describes the whole thing. And starting from that time onwards, he's continuously every week he writes a couple of blogs. And his blog site is there. It's called kesuresh.blogspot.in, or you can go to my blog ranjan.in, where I have shared some of the links. So this was very, very interesting, and actually it changed life of many people, including, for example, this lady Charu Khandal. Some of you might have seen this movie Ravan. Ravan of Shah Rukh Khan. She was the chief animator of that. Again, I will not go into details, but she got the national award. And the next day, she was in an accident at midnight in Mumbai. She was admitted to Kokilaben Hospital. And then after some time, I had gone there, demonstrated my device to the doctors there. And we showed her how she can use this to communicate. By the time I had met her, she was, spinal cord was injured. She could speak, but she could not move her hands or legs. And so, or fingers at that time. So I showed her. And then you can see this is a newspaper articles. Device helps paralyze Ravan animator type. Later on, after a few years, I met her in her home in Jaipur when she had moved back to Jaipur, her parents' home. And I showed her how to be able to type things by herself. And I wanted to get her back to doing her job. So this is a picture from her home. She was very excited. I met her in the evening. And by 10:30 in the night, she had practiced what I had showed her. This is when she had visited AIMS. I had met her there and demonstrated how she could be doing things. But unfortunately, sometime later, we lost her due to a viral infection that she had. So there are many people that were helped. I'm not showing all of them. But one area that I wanted to work and I could not help so far is the people who are in vegetative state. A large number of people who are in a vegetative state who cannot actually communicate at all. There was no means. People do not know what's going on inside their mind. And so they are called vegetative state. Here we're trying to do 3D brain mapping. Again, I'm not going to go into details, but we tried with 3 people. Right now, I've not been successful. I'm hoping that we can restart this work now that I'm back to university. And here we actually capture the 3D brain activity in real time and then use that. Again, I'm not going to go into technical details, but this is something that is open. I've also been helping children with learning disability or various other problems. Some of that I'm going to talk later on 8th June when I talk about holistic healthcare. So let me stop here and then let's move on to the next topic.
Sir, their smile can tell how genuinely you've helped them. You are no less than a god for them, sir. It is so wonderful to see that even at being at 60, where people usually lose their hopes and desires and wishes, you are still desiring to do your research in people who are for people who are in vegetative states. It's so great to see this, sir. People say sky is the limit, but our honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, has even crossed the sky and reached the space in his research. Sir, how did you get involved in India's moon mission?
So it is an interesting story. Actually, I was in Gandhinagar, and I used to sometimes give lectures at a space application center. So actually, if you are not aware, the space program of India started from Ahmedabad Physical Research Laboratory, and then they separated out, and there's a space application center where all the work was being done. And later on, the headquarters moved to Bangalore for certain reason. So space application center is still there in Ahmedabad, and they used to invite me to give certain lectures. And another area that I'll talk briefly a little later is about my work with wildlife tracking. I was giving talk on that, and while giving talk to the young trainees who had come to join ISRO, I just mentioned casually that maybe some of this work that I'm doing could also have relevance for moon mission. So at that time, my host actually mentioned to me that possibly I should talk to the physicists who are involved with the moon mission. And in particular, Professor Goswami was there, who was director of Physical Research Laboratory in Ahmedabad, who was the chief scientist of moon mission. So he said that why didn't you talk to him? So I called up Professor Goswami and asked him that, I would like to meet you and explain to you certain technology I'm working on. So there was, he talked to me on phone only for about 20 minutes. And he said that it's very interesting, but I'm not sure how this could be used in the moon mission. So that was that. And I kept talking to people about that. And sometime it was 2007, I believe, I was in Spain in a conference when I got an email that, can you come to a meeting we are having where we're discussing Chandrayaan 2? And maybe your idea can work there. So I replied back saying that I'm in Spain right now. So when I come back, I'll come and meet you. So when I came back, I went to Physical Research Laboratory, discussed with them of my idea. And they said that one of the things that we would like to do is to be able to detect water on the moon. So my idea of sensor network being used on the moon was being tried at that time, and we got the project approved for that. And when we were working on that, we got funds, and we found that within 3 months' time of getting the funds, the mission plan changed. And so this was sometime in 2009, I believe. So I changed to another, and which meant that our work on water could not be used. So then actually I went on to actually propose another work, which is to actually do seismic activity monitoring on the moon. So just like we have earthquake, there are moonquakes, we wanted to monitor that. Even before that proposal could be discussed, the mission plan changed again. And I remember that it was February of 2010 when in Rajkot there was a space science symposium. It used to be every 2 years. I was invited to be the keynote speaker in the planetary exploration group, which I was not an expert, but they somehow felt that I was doing things which were important and maybe I could bring some new change. After that conference was over, within few days, I got a request from ISRO that can you actually develop a complete system which after landing on the moon will do all the experiments that have to be done on the moon, on the rover. Let me show a few images on this. If the screen share could be brought in, I could actually show some of the images which will explain this. So could I have a screen share, please? Yeah, thank you so much. So this was my first concept where actually we were working to detect water in the what is called permanently shadowed regions of the moon. Again, I'm not going into details, but the temperatures here are minus 200 degrees centigrade, minus 200 degrees centigrade. And then, as I said, that ISRO requested me to actually, in sometime in March of 2010, to come up with a proposal to do all the various. They gave me a 5-6 list of things to be done. Those who are interested can read my blog on this, how I was involved. That there I've given details. And this actually was to do multiple tasks. So all the things that had to be done on the top of the rover were to be done by this integrated system, which I call LUSEX, Lunar Surface and Subsurface Explorer. I can just show the conceptual design of this, the picture of that. Again, I'm not going to go into details of these. And you can see this. This is how it would have looked on the moon. If there's a solar panel that is opened on the rover, and my system there, another view of that. And so this proposal details I've given was not taken up eventually, although later on in 2012, again, ISRO chairman requested me to take it up. But that time I was moving to Delhi, so it was not possible to take it up. So from this, I will, if I get a chance, I'll briefly talk about my work with wildlife tracking. Let me just show you a few pictures and then we can move on. I'll just move to the wildlife tracking. This, again, there's a story how I got into this, but I'll not have the time to go into that. But we're working in conjunction with the Wildlife Institute of India, Dehradun, which is the premier research institute in India related to wildlife. We're trying to work on a species called swamp deer, which was found in Uttarakhand region. It had disappeared and reappeared. We tried to find out where it goes and from where it comes. Then there was another one which was called this hill turtle, which was in Wildlife Institute campus, tracking of the movement of this. And of course, the tiger. How can we miss the tiger? You can see, for example, one of the prototype we made, which will allow us to capture the movement of the tiger in the night. You can see we're trying this in Ahmedabad, in Kakaria Zoo. There's a picture of the tiger. And then another species called purple frog. So this was part of our tracking of wildlife. Again, I'm not going to go into details. So we can move back. We can stop the screen sharing at this point. Unmute your mic.
So that was so great to know about how you have been keenly interested in wildlife as well. Sir, I would like to tell you something. What will be a better gift for a father other than his daughter following the paths of his own father? Yes. So we have Juhi Ranjan ma'am with us today, your beloved daughter, on this occasion.
Welcome, Juhi.
Good evening, Juhi ma'am. Welcome.
Thank you. So I guess this is the part where I tell all the secrets of my father and give you the backstory. I'm not going to do that today because he has far more secrets on me, and we don't want to get into that. But it's great that you were talking about assistive devices, moon mission. So other than just being his daughter, I've also worked with Papa as an employee. So a quick story. So my father is a really supportive person. So it doesn't matter that he was from IIT. He had never forced me to go into engineering. In fact, he has been very open-minded and very supportive of whatever I wanted to do. So after 12th standard, parents are like, beta, go into IIT or go do engineering or become a doctor. And my dad was pretty open. I was like, oh, I may want to do architecture, I really like it. And I also liked computer science. So it was kind of an equal game for me. And my dad was like, yeah, you got admission in Delhi School of Architecture. Just see if you want to go to that. And just these are some of the backstories. At that point, I realized that I like computer science more. And so I decided to go ahead and do that. And he supported me there. Now, after my BTech, all I wanted to do was work in a job. And my dad told me, I've seen many students like you like doing hands-on research. You will not probably feel very fulfilled in a job. But I was like, no, I just want to earn a lot of money right now. That's all I care about. And true to his words, like I think a year into a job or a year and a half, I really felt the itch that I want to do more. I want to work on real world problems because I had worked with my dad as an intern when I was doing my undergrad. So I talked to him and he told me that they had a couple of projects going on that needed research engineers. So I left my job at Accenture and in fact, I joined the Moon Mission project initially. if you remember. So that was the project that I was assigned to work on as a research engineer in Dhirubhai Ambani Institute. So I got started with that, and some turn of events, I don't remember exactly what happened, but you told me that it might be better to focus on the cerebral palsy related assistive device project. And that was a great thing, because it's one thing to know that you're working on a real world problem, but the assistive device really exposed me to a world of, like, it has motivated and stayed with me for the rest of my life. Because, as my dad is sharing the pictures of people, and you see them being so happy, you see them feeling so empowered. uh, Imagine seeing all of that in real life, being next to them. Some of the devices that I created when I was working with him, you saw that as well. In fact, one of the funny things is, like, there was a debate between me and my dad where I wanted to put LEDs on the device because I love LEDs as a kid. And, my dad was like, there has to be a functional requirement for it. And I don't know if I worked hard, there was a stretch, and turns out we really needed LEDs to visually indicate what type of device that the assistive device was controlling. So the LEDs made their way in, which also shows, like, the kind of relationship he has with his co-workers or his employees. It's very fair, it's open for debate. And if it's serving the purpose, it's fair game. There is no, I am right here because I am 30 years older than you. So that was fun. And, in addition, so that lesson has stayed with me forever, that when you're working on something, it is so important to understand who is it that you're working for, who is going to be impacted. It's equally important, if you can, go talk to them, meet them in person, and be motivated, because that is going to help you stay true to the mission as you are working on things. And if you feel low, you remember what is the cause that's driving you. And some of the other things I learned, my father is a huge proponent of working with hands. So when I was working on this project, I was not only working at the software level, but I was also working at a hardware level. And that meant I was soldering in the lab, and just skills that now there is no black box anymore. Like, I am not just a software person relying on someone else to develop the hardware for me, or vice versa, right? I have a full understanding of the system I'm trying to build. I have a really good understanding of the person or the problem I'm trying to solve. And then there's a huge sense of fulfillment when what you have built actually goes out there and someone actually finds it useful. And this sort of, once you get a taste of this, it stays with you. You feel like this is what you want to keep feeling again, this sense of fulfillment. And I think I wish for all the students to actually, if you get a chance, work on a real world problem, even if it's a really small problem. Just seeing that impact, it will help you grow as a person. It will help you realize who you want to be, what motivates you. And it has gone a long way. And I can keep talking about my father, there is no end to this, but I'm going to keep it short. I think there are a few things I have mentioned are very inspiring about him. So, a small digression, I think he's very courageous. He has never been afraid of being sticking to, labels. Oh, I'm a nuclear fusion scientist. I have been so for like the last 20 years. I must not become a professor in a new field where no one knows me. Like, that takes a certain amount of courage to let go of, there is no ego here. So that is extremely courageous. And I have seen him make decisions that may have been unpopular, but unpopular not because they weren't right, but because, in the real world, not every decision is unpolitical. Decisions are political. And I've seen him stick to the what is the true essence, what needs to be done. And if it needs to be done, it needs to be done. It, even if it's unpopular, it's the right thing to do. And not many people will be able to, withstand that amount of pressure and be true to that. Some of the other things is, as you may have realized, is extremely straightforward. You will say it as it is, and you know that you can trust the person you're talking to. And I think I have some of that as well. So again, my father has influenced me more than I would like to admit, because then it's like I'm just shading him, shadowing him. But
Well, one question for you. One question for you, Joey. How did that experience of work with me help you in current position as a senior research scientist in IoT company in the world's Silicon Valley, which is the innovation center? Did some of that help you in your current position?
absolutely. So, I mean, I know there is a university. Came back as a professor, and there and now I'm back in industry as a scientist. And there are two different types of research. One is you do long-term visionary research, do paper publications. And like my father, even though I have published quite a few papers, but it has never given me a sense of fulfillment. I came back to industry in Silicon Valley because of the impact of the research that we are doing here, the products we are creating. They impact some of the most critical infrastructure in the world, and which impact society. Um, Hyperloop, like the products we have, it is installed, it's enabling communications in Hyperloop, it's enabling communications in Grand Coulee Dam, it's in so many autonomous and self-driven cars. There, it has influenced me. It has influenced me because I want to work on things that matter today. That is what gives me a sense of fulfillment. I really appreciate people who are thinking long term, who are working on visionary ideas. It's just as a personal preference, it has been geared by your choice. Like you choose to work on problems that will help, someone with a disability today. And that's my sense of fulfillment coming from. So this is the position.
Thank you.
To do that. And like my father, I can talk a lot.
True. Ma'am, I would like to add one more quality of sir. He is down to earth as well. That was so
Absolutely.
great to meet you, ma'am.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sir, you have many admirers. We have got few messages from few of your admirers. Sorry, we couldn't show all the messages since we are in a lack of time. So, first message is of Anil sir. Kindly show the message of Anil sir, please.
Hello, Professor Prabhat Ranjan. Happy birthday. Many happy returns of the day on this auspicious occasion of your 60th birthday. I still remember the day when you walked into a class about 17 years ago when I was a first-year student in my Btech program at the Dhirubhai Ambani Institute in Gandhinagar. You had taught a class in, I believe, communication physics, and even then I was struck by your calming presence and the passion for the subject. I don't know if you know this, but many of the students had a nickname for you. It was Papa Ranjan, and it was probably because of your calming presence and your approachable personality. And many students had the fortune of working with you in things like the Electronic Hobby Center, and had the opportunity to be guided and motivated by you to achieve things that they didn't know would be possible. In particular, I do remember your advocacy for open source software, including the lecture that was organized by you of Richard Stallman, who had come to our campus. And that lecture and hearing his ideas and philosophy had a lasting impact on me till today. And after graduating from the ICT and after all these years, life in one of its funny twists has given me the fortune for my path to cross yours again. And thanks to that, I've been given this chance to join DY Patil International University as a professor. And I feel fortunate to have this opportunity to interact with you again, to receive your guidance, and to be given your encouragement and support, and to grow. So I look forward to contributing to your vision of DYPIU, as well as for the nation and society at large, and to continue to receive your encouragement and support. Happy birthday, Professor Prabhat Papa Ranjan.
I have to agree with this, sir. You are always radiating knowledge from you, and it's on us how much we can absorb out of it. So here comes another message from one of your admirer. Here is Amit Kumar Om, sir, with his message.
करबद्ध हम नमन करते पापा रंजन हम जन्मदिन पर सुरविंद से मिले तुमको स्वास्थ्य मान धन अनंत। थिंक टैंक प्रमुख बन देश की दिशा गढ़ी शिक्षाविद हो साइंसदान राष्ट्र के विजन नयन। नेतरहाट के मेधावी तुम बर्कले से ज्ञान लिए राष्ट्र भक्त बन वापस आए नहीं विदेश धनमान बने। अणु विघटन या संलयन हो या भविष्य का अनुपम ज्ञान रोबोटिक्स हो कोई तकनीकी लोकप्रिय करते विज्ञान। DYPIU की शान तुम मान हम सभी जन के माँ भारती की उन्नति में योगदान तेरा है अहम। तुम समर्थ हो तुम हो सक्षम और क्या दूं मैं अकिंचन ओम की बस ये दुआएं जीवेत शरद शतम जीवेत शरद शतम।
Thank you, Anil and Omji.
I really wish, sir, you live for long and long and long years so that you keep contributing for the human and mankind. So, you must have came across many journalists since you have been in so much of research. Journalists must be around you. So, please tell us about this. What research are you doing? They must have always been around you. So, here is one of the journalists who has written several articles on and for you. Here is Jasmeet ma'am. Jasmeet ma'am's message. Kindly show the message. the more we hear about you, the more we amaze ourselves. हम सर घंटों भी आपके बारे में बात करें, आपके अचीवमेंट्स के बारे में अगर सुने तो वो भी कम होगा. लेकिन due to shortage of time, we will have to end our session today over here. We'll be having our
Just
next session tomorrow.
one correction. This message was from Meenakshi Rohatgi, not from Jasmeet. Jasmeet works in a center called High Five Child Development Center in Bombay. We have worked together on many projects. So this particular message was from Meenakshi Rohatgi. Thank you.
From my side. Thank you so much, sir. That was great to know about your work in various fields, sir. With this, we come to an end of today's session. It was indeed astonishing experience to know about, sir. It was truly inspiring. I thank our Vice Chancellor, sir, all the guests and the viewers for today's program. I hope each one of you enjoyed today's session and it was startling for everyone. This must have encouraged you to learn more, do more, and definitely become a better person. Once again, thank you and have a wonderful day ahead.